I'm Olivia, a 32-year-old economist. I live in a neat, well-furnished house with Michael, my husband. He's a manager, and we've been married for 6 years. We bought this house together, filled it with fancy furniture, paintings, and all sorts of high-end appliances. Our life, at first glance, seems almost perfect. Michael and I always wanted a big family, but things haven't been easy. I can't get pregnant, yet. I try to stay positive, telling myself that everything will happen in its own time. But deep down, it's a sore spot, a silent battle I fight every day. One Friday evening, as I was organizing our bookshelf, Michael walked in, looking uneasy. "Olivia, I need to tell you something," he said, avoiding eye contact. "What's up?" I asked, curious about his tone. "It's about Laura, my sister. She's having trouble with her husband again. She wants to spend the weekend here with the kids," he said quickly, as if trying to get it all out before I could react. I paused, feeling a knot form in my stomach. Laura's visits were always chaotic. Her 3 kids were a handful, to say the least. They ran around, fought, and made a mess. "Michael, you know how I feel about this. Our house turns into a zoo when they're here," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. "Come on, Olivia. They're just kids. And Laura needs our support," he countered, sounding a bit annoyed. "I know, but it's always the same. They don't listen, and she never disciplines them. It's exhausting," I said, feeling my frustration rise. "Just this weekend, okay? Please?" Michael pleaded, giving me that look he knows I can't resist. I sighed, "Fine, but I'm not happy about it." The next day, Laura arrived with her kids. As expected, the house turned into chaos. The kids were everywhere, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. I tried to keep my cool, but it was wearing thin. At one point, I found the youngest, Tommy, drawing on the living room wall. "Tommy, stop that right now," I shouted, more sharply than I intended. Laura, who was lounging on the sofa, shot up. "Don't yell at my son, Olivia. He's just a child. Maybe if you had your own, you'd understand," she snapped. I felt a sting at her words, a mix of anger and sadness. "That's not fair, Laura." "I'm just trying to keep some order here," I retorted, my voice shaky. Michael walked in, hearing the commotion. "What's going on here?" he asked, looking between me and his sister. "Olivia's being too harsh on the kids," Laura complained. "They're destroying our house, Michael," I exclaimed, feeling overwhelmed. "Let's all just calm down. They're kids, Olivia. They don't mean any harm," Michael said, trying to mediate. I felt a rush of disappointment. Once again, Michael was taking Laura's side. It was always the same. I walked away, feeling alone and misunderstood in my own home. It was a Saturday morning, a couple of weeks after Laura's last visit. I was in the kitchen, sipping my coffee, enjoying the rare quiet when Michael walked in, looking a bit hesitant. "Olivia, I have something to tell you," he started. "What now?" I asked, a sense of dread creeping in. "Laura called. She's coming over today, with the kids," he said quickly. I almost choked on my coffee. "Again? Michael, you can't be serious. We just had them over." I know. But she's really struggling right now. We need to be there for her," he replied, sounding almost apologetic. I slammed my cup down, feeling my anger boil over. "What about us, Michael? Our weekends are always hijacked by her and those wild kids. Olivia, please. Just try to understand." "It's family," Michael said, trying to calm me down. I let out a frustrated sigh. "Fine. But I'm not playing babysitter this time." Soon, Laura arrived with her kids. As usual, they stormed into the house, running and screaming. I clenched my fists, trying to maintain my composure. I walked into the living room, where the kids were already making a mess. Guys, could you please play a bit quieter? I asked, attempting to sound gentle. Laura, who was busy scrolling through her phone, looked up. Oh, let them be, Olivia. Kids will be kids. I gritted my teeth. That's not the point, Laura. They need to learn some respect. Laura rolled her eyes. You wouldn't understand. You don't have kids. That comment hit a nerve. I was about to respond when Michael stepped in. Let's not start this again, please. Olivia, the kids are just playing. Laura, try to keep an eye on them. I walked away, feeling a mix of anger and helplessness. Throughout the day, the chaos continued. The kids ran wild, and Laura did nothing to stop them. I felt like a stranger in my own home. At dinner, the situation escalated. The youngest, Tommy, threw his food on the floor. I snapped. That's enough. This isn't a circus. Laura stood up, her face red with anger. How dare you speak to my child like that? You're so uptight, Olivia. Loosen up a bit. Michael, trying to play peacemaker, said, Olivia, maybe you're being a bit too harsh. They're just kids. I looked at Michael, feeling betrayed. I'm being harsh? Look at this mess. We can't keep living like this every weekend. Laura scoffed. Well, if it's such a burden, maybe we won't come anymore. I shot back, maybe that's for the best. The room went silent. Michael looked at me, his expression a mix of shock and disappointment. Laura grabbed her kids and left the room. I stood there, realizing that my attempt to keep order had only caused more chaos. It was a quiet Saturday morning. I was in the living room, admiring a beautiful painting that had been in my family for generations. As I stood there, lost in thought, the doorbell rang. With a sigh, I went to answer it. There stood Laura, her 3 kids buzzing around her like bees. We thought we'd surprise you, Laura announced, a smirk playing on her lips. I forced a smile. What a surprise indeed. Michael appeared, his face breaking into a grin. Hey, great to see you all. I pulled Michael aside. We need to talk. This isn't okay, her showing up unannounced all the time. It's just for today. Their family, Michael whispered back, sounding tired of this conversation. Frustrated, I let it go. The day passed in a blur of noise and chaos. The kids were everywhere, and Laura did little to control them. I tried to stay out of their way, focusing on tidying up. Then I heard a crash from the living room. My heart dropped. I rushed in to find the painting, my cherished, irreplaceable painting, inherited from my grandfather, on the floor, its frame broken, the canvas torn. What happened? I gasped, my voice trembling with anger. The room fell silent. The kids looked guilty, but Laura just shrugged. Oh, they were just playing, Olivia. It's just a painting. Just a painting? Laura, do you have any idea how much this means to me? I was nearly shouting. Michael hurried in, assessing the situation. Olivia, it's an accident. They're just kids. An accident? This was an heirloom, Michael. I cried out, feeling a surge of anger and sadness. Laura rolled her eyes. Oh, please. It's not the end of the world. You're overreacting. Overreacting? This is about respect, something you and your kids clearly lack. I shouted, my patience completely shattered. Michael tried to calm things down. Let's just all take a breath. It's not worth fighting over. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not worth fighting over? Michael, when will you stand up for what's important to us, for our home? The kids started crying, and Laura glared at me. Look what you've done. You're making a scene over some old painting. That was it, the last straw. I pointed to the door. Get out. Now. I can't take this anymore. Laura's mouth fell open in shock, and Michael's face was a picture of disbelief. You can't kick my family out, Olivia. Michael protested. This is my home too, and I've had enough. They need to leave, I said, my voice firm and unwavering. Laura, scowling, herded her kids out, muttering insults under her breath. Once they were gone, the silence was deafening. Michael looked at me, his eyes cold and distant. Olivia, you've gone too far this time, he said quietly. Too far? I'm standing up for our home, something I wish you would do, I replied, my voice shaking with emotion. That Saturday, I was sipping my coffee, still seething from the disaster with the painting, when Michael walked into the kitchen. He had that look on his face, the one that meant trouble. We need to talk, Olivia, he said, cutting straight to the chase. What's it this time? I asked, my tone sharp. It's Laura. She's getting a divorce. She's a mess and needs to stay with us. With the kids. For a few months, he blurted out. I stared at him, disbelief turning to anger. Stay here? Are you out of your mind, Michael? She's family. She needs us, he said, his voice firm. I slammed my coffee cup on the table. What about what I need? What about our life? It's just for a while. We can't turn our backs on her, Michael insisted. I felt a surge of frustration. It's always about what Laura needs. What about me, Michael? He sighed, rubbing his temples. Olivia, I'm asking you to understand. It's important. Understand. That word again. I was sick of understanding, sick of always being the one to compromise. No, Michael. I'm done understanding. Done compromising. I shot back. He glared at me. They're coming, Olivia. That's final. The conversation ended there, but the tension lingered like a bad smell. The next day, I realized my car was gone. I called Michael, my voice icy. Where's my car? I demanded. I took it. Laura needs it more. She's got the kids, he said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. You took my car? Without even asking? I felt my blood boil. It's my money that paid for it. My decision, he replied curtly. That was the last straw. Fine, Michael. You do things your way, I'll do them mine. I hung up, my mind racing. It was time to take action. I looked around our house, every room a reminder of the life we'd built and the peace that had been shattered. I needed to make a move, something bold, something decisive. Michael had pushed me to the edge, and now it was my turn to push back. I sat there, plotting my next steps, a plan forming in my mind. Whatever I was going to do, it needed to be big, a statement that I wasn't going to be walked over anymore. But what exactly? That was the question. I felt a mix of fear and adrenaline at the thought of what was to come. Michael had no idea what he had set in motion. On Monday, the sun hadn't even fully risen when I started my plan. I've always been meticulous, every receipt saved, every purchase logged. Today, that attention to detail was going to pay off. I called the most reliable moving company in town, ready for a drastic change. The movers arrived early, and I was ready with a list. Everything I bought, it's leaving today, I told them firmly, handing them the list. It included all the furniture, the appliances, every single item I had paid for with my own money. The team leader looked at the list, then at me, and nodded. We'll handle it, ma'am. Piece by piece, the house was stripped bare. The living room, where we had laughed and argued, the bedroom, once a sanctuary, now just empty spaces. Michael was still absent, unaware of the transformation his home was undergoing. In a way, the emptiness of the house started to feel like a fitting metaphor for our marriage, void, stripped of warmth, bare of any love or understanding. With the last item loaded, I did a final walkthrough. The house, once a symbol of our shared life, was now just a shell. No trace of me or my contributions remained. I left before Michael returned. I wanted to be gone, to be free from the confrontation, the accusations, the pleading. I wanted him to experience the shock, the sense of loss, without me there to witness it. Driving to my mother's house, I couldn't help but play over in my mind the moment Michael would walk into the empty house. I imagined his confusion turning to realization, the shock, maybe even a hint of regret. I was sitting in my old bedroom at my mother's house, surrounded by the things I had taken from our home, when my phone rang. It was Michael. His voice was a mix of rage and disbelief. "Olivia, what the hell have you done?" he bellowed as soon as I picked up. "I took what's mine." "Just like you took the car," I replied, my voice calm but firm. "The house is empty. You stripped it bare. How could you?" His anger was palpable, even through the phone. "You made your priorities clear, Michael." "So, I made mine," I said, standing my ground. "This is insane." "You're acting like a child," he accused. "No, I'm acting like a woman who's had enough. Enough of being sidelined, enough of your sister's chaos, enough of you taking me for granted," I shot back. There was a pause, a moment of silence that spoke volumes. "I'm coming over." "We're settling this now," he said, and hung up. An hour later, Michael was at the door. He looked furious, his eyes scanning the room, taking in his surroundings, my old childhood bedroom, now a sanctuary for what I had salvaged from our home. "You've lost your mind, Olivia. Taking everything, leaving me with nothing," he started, his voice loud and accusing. "I left you with exactly what you chose, your sister, her kids, and a house you preferred over our marriage," I replied, meeting his gaze. "You think this is some kind of game? You think you can just take everything and walk away," he said, his voice rising. "It's not a game, Michael. It's my life. And yes, I can walk away. You've shown me exactly where I stand in your life," I said, my voice steady. "This is not the end, Olivia. You can't just end things like this, over some furniture and a car," he said, his voice a mix of anger and something that sounded like desperation. "It ended the moment you chose your sister over your wife. The furniture, the car, that's just stuff. It's the respect and love that's missing, and that's not something you can get back just because you want to," I replied. He looked at me, his anger giving way to a realization, a dawning understanding of the gravity of the situation. "So, what now? You divorce me? Over this? If that's what it takes to show you that I'm serious, then yes," I said, the words tasting bitter but necessary. He looked defeated, beaten down by the weight of his choices and their consequences. "You've made your point, Olivia. It's not about making a point, Michael. It's about making a life I can be happy in. One where I'm respected and valued. And right now, that life doesn't include you," I said, the finality of my words hanging in the air. He left without another word, the door closing softly behind him. I sat there, in the quiet aftermath of our confrontation, knowing that this was a turning point. There was no going back, only forward, into a new, uncertain future, but one that I would navigate on my own terms. A few weeks had passed since the confrontation with Michael. I was sitting at the kitchen table at my mother's house, a stack of divorce papers in front of me. My mother walked in, her expression a mix of concern and support. "Are you sure about this, Olivia?" she asked, sitting down beside me. I looked at her, my resolve clear. "Yes, Mom. I've never been more sure about anything." She sighed, reaching over to squeeze my hand. "He called again. Said he wants to talk, maybe work things out." I shook my head. "There's nothing left to work out. I've made up my mind. You're being really hard, Olivia. Marriage isn't easy. It takes compromise," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Compromise, yes. But not sacrifice. Not my happiness, not my self-worth, I replied. Just then, my phone rang. It was Michael. I took a deep breath and answered. Olivia, please. Let's not do this. We can fix it, he said, his voice pleading. Michael, it's over. I've moved on. You need to as well, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I never thought you'd go through with this. Over a few arguments, over some car. He trailed off. It wasn't just arguments or car, Michael. It was about being valued and respected. You made your choices, and now I've made mine, I replied. There was a pause on the line. So, this is it, then, he asked. Yes, this is it, I said, and hung up. I signed the divorce papers, each signature a step towards a new beginning. My mother watched, tears in her eyes, but she didn't say anything more. She understood. In the weeks that followed, I settled into a new routine. The divorce was finalized, and I started to feel like myself again. There were moments of loneliness, of doubt, but they were fleeting. I had chosen a path of self-respect, and with each day, it felt more and more right. One evening, I went out for dinner with friends, the first time in a long time. We laughed, shared stories, and for a few hours, I forgot all about the past few months. As we were leaving the restaurant, one of my friends, Sarah, nudged me. You seem different, Olivia. Happier. I smiled, feeling a sense of peace. I am. I finally feel like I'm in control of my own life again. We walked out into the cool night, the city lights twinkling around us. It felt like a fresh start, a new chapter. Several months had passed since my divorce, and I was sitting on the small balcony of my new apartment, enjoying the quiet of the evening. Suddenly a text came from a friend, Linda. She always had the latest gossip. Heard about your ex working himself to the bone now. His sister's causing him hell. Serves him right. I sighed, a mix of satisfaction and pity. Yeah, I heard. He made his bed. Linda was quick to reply. You're better off. He's drowning in debt and drama. I put my phone down, thinking about Michael. Last I heard, he was struggling, working overtime to support Laura and her kids. Their house had become a hotbed of arguments and stress. Part of me felt vindicated, but there was a small part that felt sorry for him. I shook off the feeling. It was his choice, after all. I had moved on, building a life that was mine and mine alone. I had a new job, new friends, and a peace of mind I hadn't felt in years. Later that night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but think about how different my life was now. I was independent, making decisions for myself, living without the constant drama that had once consumed me. The next day, I met up with Sarah for coffee. She was always straight to the point. You look good, Olivia. Really good. Not like when you were with what's-his-name. I laughed. Thanks, Sarah. It's been a journey, but I'm in a much better place now. Good for you. You deserve it. After all that crap he put you through, she said, taking a sip of her coffee. I nodded, feeling a sense of accomplishment. I learned a lot. But now, I'm just focused on moving forward. As we chatted, I realized how far I'd come. I was no longer the woman who put up with everything. I was stronger, more confident, and in control of my life. Walking back to my apartment, I felt a sense of optimism. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, that uncertainty excited me. I was ready for whatever came next, ready to face new challenges, and make the most of new opportunities.